Hello everyone, let us talk about subqueries. Now, this is a basic example of a subquery. Select invoice number, invoice date, invoice total. So retrieve information from these three columns from invoices, but only when the condition is satisfied. So where invoice total is bigger subquery. So the highlighted part is a subquery, and it returns the average of all invoice total throughout the invoices. That is a single number, and we compare each invoice total to that number, and if the comparison returns true, we select the data from the corresponding row. We will come back and play with it a little bit later. Let us see what are the possibilities for subqueries. So subqueries can be introduced in a where clause as a part of a search condition. Again, in a having clause as a part of a search condition. Also, in a from clause where they play a role of a table, basically, and in select clause as a column specification. Another thing you need to know is that it cannot be introduced everywhere. For example, if it has more than one column. So if the subquery returns single value, can be introduced anywhere an expression is allowed. And a result set with a single column can be used in list of values as list of values, and also it can be used in a from clause, so basically a table with one column. But again, if we have a from, we introduce a subquery in a from clause, then we basically can use one column, multiple columns. We can use a subquery with multiple columns. All right. And another topic that we need to discuss is how a query can be rewritten from the join query to a subquery, and oftentimes the other way around. So select these three columns where from invoices join vendors on vendor ID, basically identifying by vendor ID, where vendor state is California, and then order by invoice date. So this is your typical inner join, and we would like to be able to rewrite it as a subqueries just for the practice sake. Okay, time to talk about this in Management Studio. All right. So first of all, I have a select statement, and let me make sure that it runs. Invoices join vendors. There is a where condition that has to do with the vendor's column vendor state. And I want to replace this as a subquery. So let me comment this out. And now these three columns are actually from invoices. And I don't need join vendors now. And I don't need this now. Where vendor state is California. So this is about vendors. Here I will do a select statement. Select vendor ID. Select vendor ID. From vendors where vendor state is equal to California, and well, this is a subquery which returns all vendor IDs where the vendor state is California in the vendor information. So IDs of all vendors from California. And here I need to say that vendor ID in the result set of this query and order by invoice. So notice this had 40 rows and kind of remember the first and the last just to make sure it works in some easy way, and rerun our distinct query, and we get the very same result set. So we translated a query with a join with to a query with a subquery. And basically here they did the same thing. Okay, so joins and subqueries are different, and they have advantages and disadvantages. Now, based on the previous work, you might look at it and say that subqueries are easier. And it's true in many cases, especially and particularly when you are working with very complex queries. In that case, subqueries are probably preferable to joins. Also, as it says over here on the slide, if you are using some ad hoc relationship, that is a relationship that is not defined in a database, then subquery may be more intuitive. And advantages of joins, they are faster. They are sometimes more intuitive when it uses the existing relationship. There's a relationship that was defined in the database. And it's better when you want to include columns from both tables. So much of the time, there is a way to express a query using joins. If there is a way to express it using joins, then there will be a way to express it using subqueries, and the other way around. But be mindful of that. One way may be much more complicated than the other. And before we're done, I want to go back to the first one and make sure we finish with that example. So to remember what it did, or to experiment with it, first of all, play the subquery by itself. Here it is. So this is the actual average computed by the subquery by itself. And now going back to my query, over here, the condition where invoice total is bigger than this pre-computed value of 1800 and change, and that is how the very first example of a subquery worked. So the number that is produced by this query is 1800 and some change, and you can notice that all the selected invoice totals, they have bigger values.